Have you ever tried to buy an expensive card from abroad, get it shipped over from a foreign country, worrying about the condition, the packaging, is it going to arrive intact? Is it going to clear customs? Is it even real? Can I get this graded? Well, my guest today did exactly that with one of the most legendary football cards you can buy. I'm joined by James, aka Mad City Collector, and he's going to tell us the story about his Maradona Rookie 1977 Football Disc. This is one of the most legendary cards in the football card hobby. We're going to discuss how he got the card over from Argentina in one piece, and all about Maradona rookies in general and why it's such a special card.
Yeah, arguably the Maradona's, like, in a lot of ways, is my favorite.
Maradona 1977 Football Disc is kind of, you could probably call it his true rookie, I think it's known as. One of the greatest players of all time, the legend himself, Diego.
Yeah, he doesn't have any other 1977 issues of anything. I think if you're new to the space of, football collecting, you'd be like, this is a weird item. It's a disc. But I remember as soon as I dug into kind of the history of, South American football collecting, the disc was like a staple. It was kind of the sticker, almost like the Panini sticker of South America for decades. And a lot of, whether it's like Di Stefano or anyone, like a lot of the rookies from the notable Argentinian players, or historically.
Yeah, I didn't really take note of discs because it seemed a bit odd to me, but I've come to appreciate them more in recent times. The more I've kind of delved into the history of discs in South America and how important they are, I've learned to appreciate them a lot more.
Yeah, and I think as a El Rey collection, Al Dragella, he's obviously a prominent kind of vintage collector. He's just going to his YouTube channel, watching him, acquire so many of these old South American issues, whether they're discs or some of them are like silhouette cutouts, and just there's such a variety of formats that you find in some of the vintage stuff. But so once I kind of got over that initial barrier of, oh, this is a disc, not a card, or traditional rectangular sticker. I just it's within the Argentinos juniors kind of kit before he went to Boca, young, like, kind of wild hair, just it's kind of just got the colors are even pretty good on it. And like this specific copy I actually bought raw. I was kind of an idiot, new to collecting. I bought it raw from someone in Argentina, not knowing whether it was truly authentic. I did have a plan in place. Not to make me seem too much like an idiot. I was like, the seller accepted returns, and what I did is I got it from Argentina, and I immediately sent it, like, overnighted it to PSA and had it, like, same day authenticated. So my plan was, if it came back inauthentic, I would return it.
How long ago was this?
So this was like 2021, I think late 2021. So,
okay.
So it was kind of peak of the market. So I paid pretty strong for it at the time, and it kind of has dipped down since then. But yeah, the PSA 4 grade was a pretty good grade for it.
That's good grade for
and the other thing I didn't even realize at the time, there are these little notches on the edge of it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of annoying. This copy has all these notches, and then I come to find out that the notches are actually a mark toward it being an authentic disc. Like, if you don't have the notches, you have to be a little concerned that it's not authentic. And so I was like, oh, I'm glad I have the notches now, even though kind of at the time I was like, oh, this is like a flaw of the disc. No, it's actually because of the way they were, like, punch, the punch cut of them. Like, they all ended up with kind of a little, like, these little kind of notches along the margin. So
how did you find the seller in Argentina?
So the seller had actually sold another one, like, I had come up on my saved search, like, maybe a couple months before, and then this copy came up, and it was actually in much better least visually, it looked like it was in much better condition than like the other copy that it had come up. And I was like, maybe I can get this, because I think the graded copies of this were selling pretty strong at this point. Like I said, they did correct in like 2023, 2024. So I probably could have gotten them cheaper than I got this one for, but I think things have subsequently recovered to a certain extent. So I think I'm back in the black, from an investment standpoint. Uh, but yeah, I kind of like, kind of had this seller on my radar, and I was like, oh, how much more authentic can you get than a seller from Argentina selling it? And I thought it would kind of be a cool story, but in retrospect, knowing how much like kind of fraud goes on, I'm like, it was kind of a risky move to get something shipped from Argentina. It was funny. I think.
So is that just through his eBay?
Yeah, just through his eBay, and it was funny.
So did you just pay on
eBay? So I was
him?
kind of protected from that
Okay.
standpoint. So that was that was kind of decent. And it was funny to kind of avoid any customs people stealing it in Argentina. He actually slid it into just like a paperback book, so that if someone ever opened the package, it just looked like it was like some sort of like book. And I was like, oh, that's when I realized, I was like, oh, this was a little sketchier than I think I realized at first. But makes for a good story now that it's like, slabbed up authentic and everything like that. But at the time I was like, I was kind of being an idiot, but yeah, I think, but even now it's like, I think there was a flurry of them getting graded during that kind of boom period. And I can't remember off the top of my head what the pop is now, but I think it's over 100, but I think it's less than 200 still at PSA. I think there are some SGC graded copies. But yeah, I mean, as far as graded copies out there, and I think there are not that many.
Yeah, and you don't see them appear raw much anymore either.
Yeah.
If you do, you'd be so worried about them being fake now,
right?
Because there's so much more widely known to do what you did. Again,
yeah,
now.
it seems insane. I think it was still niche at the time, and they were kind of undiscovered, and maybe people weren't trying to scam people quite as much. But there are a couple of collectors on Instagram who I've seen talked about saying that some of the PSA slabbed copies they think are actually inauthentic. But like I said, the notches on the edges kind of give it that extra little bit of confidence that it's authentic.
Well, I guess you do. The owners of them will have the PSA guarantee if they are.
Right. So if I sell, anyone buying my copy will feel confident that, if it turns out to be inauthentic, that they would end up getting their money back. So like, as far as me, I don't think I could, me being the submitter, I couldn't collect on the guarantee, but anyone who buys it from me could collect on the guarantee if it turned out to be fake. So
yeah, exactly.
But like I said, I feel good that it's authentic because, like I said, because of the notches. But yeah, you're always, I mean, PSA makes mistakes and things like that, but at least they have the guarantee for if you buy it on the secondhand market type of thing.
When I first saw Maradona's disc as his kind of true rookie, and I was like, well, I kind of prefer the 1978 releases because he's got the one where he's standing in his full kit, full Argentinos Juniors kit, his first ever club, and it's a proper card. You can see it's him with his long hair and everything, and it's a vintage looking card, and it's and I'd be like, oh, I think if I was going to look for a Maradona rookie, that's the one I would be in particular chasing. But the year before will always be more valuable because it is a year earlier, even though it's a disc. And aesthetically, I would always turn to the card, and the look of that card is especially pleasing to me.
Yeah, as far as the 78 releases, there's the other one with just like the portrait shot in the Argentina kit with the pink kind of, background kind of. National, I recently bought a copy, I think SGC 2.5 copy of that was pretty well centered, but it's kind of like his Argentina rookie and then his like kind of club, Argentinos Juniors.
Yeah. Well, I think that the one that everyone when soccer started to kind of boom and people were talking about football collecting a lot more was the Panini Calciatori sticker, which it had that weird sale that then disappeared back in whatever year that was. Was it $1 million it went for, and then it just disappeared?
Yeah.
Or,
yeah, there was like
then,
there was like a PSA 9 or 10. I can't remember what it was. A copy
Yeah.
that just there was like a crazy sale that popped up.
crazy sale, but then the sale disappeared off record.
Yeah.
It was on Golden, I think, and then it's not on there.
Yeah, maybe
anymore, so
maybe it didn't get paid or something.
Who knows what happened
Yeah.
there? If you want to see more cards like this alongside thousands of other sports cards and sports memorabilia, then there's no better place than the Intercity Sports Paradiso at the Amex Stadium in Brighton on Saturday the 30th of May. Searching for soccer fans can get 25% off their ticket price. Just go to the description where you'll get a special discount code. The link's in there as well to the Intercity website. You'll be able to book your tickets. I'll be there as I'm running the vintage and pre-modern floor, so hopefully I'll get to meet you on the day. But that was one that was kind of the one that everyone talked about, and I think a lot of people thought that was his rookie. I mean, it's his first ever Panini sticker, and there was a lot of fakes of them going round. And the thing is, you get a lot of Italian people that are very upfront about this isn't authentic because they're making copies just for collecting a certain sticker. So it says it on the listing, like this is that it's not an authentic listing. But if people start sending them off to grading and some get through, like who knows? But the like I've always been a huge Maradona kind of fan, even as an Englishman, and what he did to us in '86. I've always appreciated his kind of talents and more his story and his personality and what he did for the game and just everything about him is just fascinating.
Yeah.
And I often buy the World Cup stickers because he didn't play in '78 and he was kind of this like robbed of that World Cup that Argentina won. And he thought he should play, but it was under the dictatorship in Argentina at the time, and he was kind of anti-dictatorship and didn't make the team. And so the World Cup '82 sticker is one I've got at grading at the moment, and it's got an interesting back. So there's only a couple of them graded, I think. But that I've often looked at those, and just the portrait picture on the sticker is something I love. So kind of there's so many things you can collect for a player like Maradona, depending on what you're into and how much money you've got to spend and things like that. It's just kind of endless. And the fact it starts, but this very kind of first thing of Maradona is this disc, this little tiny little disc in 1977, and then it sets it off, and you go from there to cards and cartoon cards in '79.
Right.
So, yeah. But yeah, I mean that.
Yeah, I went pretty like kind of in like 2021, 2022. I went pretty deep, buying quite a few of his interesting releases from the I guess late '70s and '80s. Because once he became such a notable player, I think they started putting him in everything, and see tons of stickers, kind of like Pele in the '60s. Like every manufacturer put him in every set they did, and so there's a bunch of interesting ones out there. Yeah, and like like you said, the classic Panini headshots are just there is something just really we all love a good action shot, but the headshot's just like that's instantly recognizable if you're at all familiar with Panini and the brand and everything. And even as a lot of his, once he went to Napoli too, so many of his Calciatori like stickers are great. And even his early Barcelona ones, those are the ones I haven't been able to find as many yet. I figured I'd be able to pick some up, but they're a little, like the Este ones are a little harder to find than I thought they would be.
Yeah, I've got one of those. They're really hard because they're all stuck in, so they're really hard to find unstuck.
Yeah.
So anything you find of those that has an unstuck back is is kind of worth getting hold of because they don't come up a lot.
Yeah, I kind of thought that more would appear, and then after I think I saw a couple sales, and it was just I haven't seen one in year. I don't think I've seen one in like a couple years, to be honest. Graded at least. You may see them raw because I know you're able to seems to find them more easily raw than I am. I'm not sure which. Being closer to the source in Europe probably helps a little bit, and that's
Yeah, well, I mean, if you go to shows across Europe, it's probably 90% raw.
Yeah,
and when you not as many graded cards, unlike the American shows.
yeah. So it's yeah, no, it's that's such an interesting dynamic too. It's just like I being in the United States, it's I kind of have to wait for other people to find them and bring them to market. I can't do the dirty work and go to shows in Europe and find them and things like that. So it's because it's a slightly different dynamic.
I don't hear people talk about much is the South American market and what it's like for a South American collector over there. Are they? I mean, they're closer to America to get things graded, but does that make any difference? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Proximity wise, no. I mean, I think there are enough just Argentinian collectors in Argentines who are collectors over the years who've collected them, that if you get in touch with like someone who can be a broker between you and them, I think you can bring them to the States and things like that. And like I said, I mentioned before, Al Jurgela, I think he's been doing it for multiple decades. I think he's had a contact down there who kind of, when things pop up, they let him know, and he obtains them, type of thing, and he gets them all raw, and then he grades them. So it's
yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of I'm always, whenever you have your reels where you have these raw cards or raw stickers that you found, and it's like that as a collector, that's like a fun way of collecting. Like it's not it's fairly low pressure. You're not like breaking the bank for these, but they're these are really cool, just stickers to own, and even no matter the grade type of thing.
I hear people moan all the time about how they've received their raw cards from across Europe and across the world, that it's coming. It's not in a top loader. It's not properly packaged. It's full of sellotape. But I quite enjoy opening these packages that you get from random places across Europe that you don't know what you're going to get and how it's going to be packaged. So it's almost like doing surgery on an envelope and sometimes I've opened up this thing that's got sellotape all over it. There's nothing hard in there. So it's just in an envelope, maybe wrapped in a bit of old newspaper. And I'm using like a little Stanley knife to try and get into it. And then you pull out this thing, and if it comes out in perfect condition, which occasionally it does, it's such a kind of cool feeling that you've not only have you had a good deal buying something online and you've achieved it, you've actually achieved the process of managing to open that without damaging it. And it's made it to you, and then to put that in a sleeve and get it graded yourself and get a good grade is there's a real enjoyment to that process as well as just the process of buying it.
Yeah, it's a really true appreciation of just the collecting process, and it's like you feel more like you're unearthing treasures when you do it that way, rather than just going on Golden or Fanatics and just hitting, just bidding. It's the highest bidder type of. You're really when it's discovery that you're doing. It's a different dopamine hit, as they say, than just than just being the strongest bidder type of thing. So,
well, I mean, I love the story of you getting that from Argentina. You said you thought it'd be a cool story and then regretted it, but you have ended up with a cool story, and you've ended up with a Maradona rookie in a good grade that I think you'll treasure that, but potentially forever. But yeah, love it.
Yeah. In the end, it worked out.